Buying a home in Washington isn't just find a house, make an offer, boom, bam, wham, it's my house now. There are a lot of legal, financial, and strategic steps that you need to take. And this is where people either win or make very expensive mistakes. If you're new here, my name is Nathan Mathisen, and this is RE Radar, where we are all about education. And today, how I'm going to be providing that is by breaking down the step by step process from getting pre approved to getting your keys on your brand new home. Now, first off, looking kind of big picture, this is not a simple copy and paste process. Every deal, it's different. Every situation has its own variables that need to be accounted for. What I'm giving you today is a realistic kind of framework for how to understand and how a typical transaction might play out. And even then, it's not going to be perfectly linear. Sometimes steps overlap, you repeat things, or sometimes things move faster or slower. But at a high level here, I'm going to be breaking it into 5 phases. We're going to be looking at the financial prep, home search, writing of the offer, the due diligence and mutual acceptance, and then, of course, the best part, closing. First up, we've got the financial prep. And this is step 1 for a reason. Everything starts with your numbers. Before you fall in love with a home, you need to know, can I actually afford this place? Because it's way better to answer that question up front from the get-go than touring homes and getting emotionally attached to something only to find out, oops, I can't afford it. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like if you're getting a loan, getting a pre-approval. If you're paying cash, well, you're going to need that money ready to go. A pre-approval, what does it mean? Well, it means you've actually given a lender documentation, income, debts, just everything, and they verified it. And then they give you a letter showing, okay, this is what this person can afford. This is the loan we will give them. Now, a lot of people confuse that with being pre-qualified. That's not the same thing. Pre-qualified is basically just you telling a lender your numbers verbally, and there's no verification, no actual documents, so no real backing. It doesn't carry the weight of a pre-approval. Now, another thing, once you start talking with a lender, this is where strategy can start being debated. They can walk you through different loan programs, ways to structure your loan, how to maximize your buying power, or what's best for you. Credit score, well, it matters here as well. So if your credit isn't great, well, unfortunately, your interest rate is going to be higher. So in some cases, it might make sense to pause and improve. These are all things that you will be discussing with your lender and your real estate agent for strategy. Because here's where the reality hits. Timing, it does matter. Now, you might go about and improve your credit and get a better rate with that better credit. But if rates go up overall and during that time, you might just end up being right back to where you started with the poor credit. So almost every decision here is a trade-off. That's why step 1 is simply talking to a lender, understanding your situation, and then you build a game plan from there. And then don't forget your down payment. Well, it is going to play a huge role as well. Higher down payment, what does that mean? Well, smaller loan amount, which of course, what does that mean? A lower monthly payment. But a key point here to emphasize is you do not actually need 20% down. That's a big myth out there. You can buy with as little as 3% down, or if you're a VA, 0% down. But of course, that will change your monthly payments. For example, here on a $750,000 home, 20% down at a 6.5% interest rate, that's about $3,800 a month in payments. At 3% down, that's about $4,600 a month. So that's about an $800 difference. But also take note that down payment being much smaller, that's about a $128,000 difference in what you're putting up. So again, it's all trade-offs. Bottom line though, get your financial picture clear first, because everything else, it builds off of that. Now for the fun, exciting part. We've got the home search. But before you even start touring properties, take a step back and figure out 2 things I say. Why are you buying? And what are your must-haves? If you skip that step, you end up touring a bunch of homes that might not actually fit your life and your needs. So once you've got clarity, then you can start touring. And when you do, take notes because, well, guess what? Some people, they buy a home in a week. Others, it can take months, maybe even years. So if you're seeing a lot of homes, they're going to blur together. Now, here's a key shift that you have to have in your head. You're not just browsing for a home, you're actually comparing. If you've defined your must haves properly, every home that you look at should meet those criteria. So now it's going to come down to the extras, the fluff. For example, you've got two homes. They both meet your criteria, location, beds, garage, budget. One has an updated kitchen and an open floor layout. The other one has a much bigger yard and a way better primary suite. Now you're making a decision based on your personal preferences. You're not going to be out there scrambling to figure out if it even works for your specific needs. And some quick insight here is one of the most common disappointments I find buyers have is when they end up hesitating on the right home and then someone else buys it. You want to get those ducks in a row and be ready to go. So have that criteria set. Now, next up is the technical side of actually writing the offer as well. Every deal is different, but there's a few big pieces that I'm going to be covering with the contract. First up, of course, purchase price. Pretty straightforward. But remember, the list price is not always going to be the final price. New listing, yeah, it's likely going to need to be that or higher if it's a competitive market situation. If the home's been sitting on the market for a while, there may be some room to negotiate down. Now, next up, we've got earnest money. This is your good faith deposit, kind of. Typically, it's going to be maybe around 3%, but it varies situation to situation. It gets submitted shortly after your offer is accepted, maybe 2 or 3 days, and it is going to go towards your down payment or closing costs later. So keep that in mind. It's not simply extra money on top of the purchase price. Part of your offer is going to be what contingencies you use. Now, there's a lot of them, but I'm going to kind of hit on 3 key ones that are very common. You've got a financing contingency. This is what protects you if your loan falls through. Without it, you're going to risk losing your earnest money if your income changes in a way to where the lender is no longer going to be able to give you that loan. Then you've got the inspection contingency. This is going to give you time to have a licensed inspector come out there, look through the property and figure out what type of a quality it is in, just the whole systems and just the whole property itself, really. Now, if during this inspection contingency period, something comes up on it major and you want to get out of the deal, well, because of that inspection contingency, you can get out and you can keep your earnest money. In a competitive market now, these timelines can get tight, sometimes only 2 or 3 days after you're in mutual acceptance. Or in real competitive situations, buyers can waive some of these entirely. Or another option with the inspection is some folks will do a pre-inspection. What this would be is, while the home is still active on the market, you as the buyer hire an inspector to go into that home and do an inspection before you write your offer. This way, when you write your offer, you're going to be able to waive inspection because, well, you already had one done and you know everything. Now, along with the home inspection, something I often recommend is to not skip the sewer inspection. A damaged sewer line, it can cost a lot. And, well, you do not want that surprise after closing. Yes, a sewer inspection might cost you about $250, but could save you huge lumps of money in the long run as well. If that sewer line is screwed, well, if you want to get a new one, or if you need to get a new one, that could be upwards of over $40,000, upwards of huge sums of money. So that $250 sounds like small change compared to that. Now, then there's also the title contingency. This is what protects you if there's some sort of an issue with the ownership or legal claims on the property, like maybe easements and just all that fun legal property stuff. Now, there, of course, are more contingencies out there that you could use, but the key point here is everything's situational. Work with your real estate agent and structure the right offer for your specific situation and the market conditions and the seller situation. Now, next up, once your offer is accepted, you are in mutual acceptance. Congratulations. Important note, though, this does not mean you own the home yet. This is when basically the clock starts. Typically, a closing time frame could be around 30 days, could be sooner, especially if you're cash, but it can vary. Now, during this time, you deposit the earnest money. You complete those inspections if you're getting them done. The lender is going to be doing some work. They're going to order appraisal for you. Now, the appraisal, keynote with it is if it comes in low, you've got a gap and you've got a little bit of an issue and you've got a gap that you have to cover. Maybe you're going to have to renegotiate with the seller, or you're going to have to cover that difference with cash. So this mutual acceptance period is all about kind of checking those boxes on the contract and keeping the deal in place. So once you're in mutual acceptance, you start checking off those boxes, and then it gets closer and closer to closing day. Now, when you get close, a few things happen. You're going to be signing all the documents. Usually that's going to take place a couple days before closing. A lot of people might think, and in some places it might be, where you sign the documents the day of closing. That does not usually happen here. Usually it's going to be a couple days before, so then everything can get put up in order. You're also going to be doing what's called a final walkthrough to make sure the home is in the same condition as when you agreed to buy it. And then, of course, on closing day, so here's what takes place. The lender is going to fund the loan. Escrow is going to send everything into the county. The county is going to record it. And then once it's recorded, then it is official. Now, technically, possession on the contract is at 9 p.m. But in most cases, you're going to get the keys once recording happens, which is often sometime between noon and late afternoon. But of course, it all depends on when the documents get sent into the county. Now, that is kind of the basic full process of buying a home, from getting pre-approved to getting the keys and closing on the place. So if you've got any questions or want me to break any part down further or help out with your specific situation, feel free to reach out at any time. I'm always happy to help. But until then, this has been RE Radar. I'm Nathan Mathisen. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Peace.